Today, I wanted to discuss the learning sequence I have in mind for using digital tools in the classroom. I wanted to discuss a subject area that, in my opinion, currently calls for a significant amount of inquiry to understand the concepts involved, but one where I believe digital tools could improve the inquiry component of learning. I decided to use the content descriptor of food chains and food webs and the relationships between producers, consumers, and decomposers for Year 4 students. To really build on their existing knowledge and delve deeply into the principles of the food chain using digital and online resources, I wanted to develop this learning sequence under the presumption that my students have indeed done all of the relevant learning on life cycles and living and non-living things in Year 3. Firstly, I wanted the overall learning of this unit to be inquiry-based and have students explore the concepts on their own within groups so it would be continuous throughout the unit, meaning that I would assign the groups and they would continue working in those groups during every lesson in the unit to enhance their social capabilities and foster a sense of collaboration. The digital resources I've decided to discuss today are the resources I would implement in the beginning of the unit to aid in the explicit teaching phase, and then at the end of the unit as part of their assessment and as proof of knowledge progression throughout the unit. To start their unit, I would get them engaged straight away by showing them some videos online related to the topic, like Study Jams, which is a scholastic program. It provides a full range of different educational videos that students can either watch on their iPad or school laptop, or it could be viewed as a class and has a quiz at the end to test their knowledge from watching the video. I believe that a resource like this would be fundamental in building a foundation of knowledge to add to when I start teaching all of the separate parts explicitly, as I know that watching videos, especially cartoons, is something that will keep Year 4 students engaged in a new topic. I chose this specifically because I wanted to use a constructivist theory to enhance the initial learning phase by just letting them figure out the answer for themselves, based on what they just viewed through the Scholastic Study Jams website. For this particular lesson, students will watch the 4-minute cartoon on Study Jams that covers food chains, food webs, carnivores, herbivores, producers, consumers of all types, and decomposers, and the relationship between them. They then can participate in the quiz where they test their knowledge, and as you can see in this video, students are also able to see what questions they got wrong and correct. For this particular lesson, I'd also probably either have students watch the video individually or watch as a whole class, and then I'd split them into small groups to answer the quizzes to help them with some peer-assisted learning as well, as some students find it much simpler to take in new information than others, and having a student-level language spoken by other students will also help them to learn. In the middle lessons, I would concentrate on breaking down each contributor to the food chain and ensuring that students could explore in their groups using tangible manipulatives like puzzles and other technological tools, like maybe creating a food chain matching game, as they increase their knowledge and understanding of this subject. I want my students to think critically about the contributions that each link in the food chain makes and why each link is so important by breaking down the chain into its component elements. Over the course of the unit, assuming it's 1 to 2 lessons per week for approximately 5 weeks, students will learn the ins and outs of all things food chain, learning about producers, consumers, and decomposers, as well as the relationship between them and how that affects their ecosystem in separate lessons in order to make sure that the content is fully embedded. By teaching in these stages, I believe that the students will have a complete understanding of the role that each creature, living and non-living, plays in their ecosystem and ultimately how that affects us as humans in that food chain if it applies. Students will work through a series of exercises utilizing PowerPoint and other straightforward digital tools like Quizlet and Quizzes to test their knowledge, discuss topics in a group setting, and share newly acquired knowledge with classmates who are also learning these principles for the first time. In the end, this will make a classroom a place where students feel comfortable asking questions and experimenting to find solutions. The last lesson and assessment piece would involve students using the Scratch animation software in a group to create an animation about the food chain involving all the contributors in that particular food chain. Students will have the agency to pick any living or non-living thing they want, and then create a food chain or a food web animation that explains all the knowledge they've learned throughout the unit that contributes to that organism's ecosystem. An easy-to-use website for learning how to code, Scratch Animation makes a straightforward but powerful animation to convey ideas. Students may decide to take turns in charge of different links in the food chain for the assessment while working in groups. An example: the team chooses to use a great white shark as the creature for their animation focus. One student might decide to work on the great white shark's consumers of the food chain, another would decide to work on the producers section of the animation, and so on. This animation program covers content descriptors in the curriculum for digital technologies, such as investigating how digital resources can be improved by the addition of other tools, in addition to helping students solidify their knowledge by using a fun animation website. For example, students may decide to add voiceovers to their animation to produce a more polished version of their video. Students can learn about the specific coding approaches while using their abilities from inquiry-based learning to explore the website and collaborate with their peers to create something using Scratch, which is also a coding platform. Again, doing group work for this kind of assessment helps students to collaborate and communicate with one another, as well as share their thoughts in a classroom environment. To reiterate, there is explicit teaching that occurs during classroom activities, and then digital resources are used to introduce and engage the students in the topic, research additional questions, and to consolidate learning using quizzes and animation software to create a group assessment piece. In addition, I would have students use PowerPoint to express ideas that could be presented to the class as a group during lessons to act as an expert group to help enhance the overall learning experience in the classroom. These other digital resources include quizzes, Quizlet, and Kahoot, which would be utilized to help collect data and check knowledge progression throughout the unit to make sure that students succeed in the assessment.